Alright, this video is going to briefly go over what the wiring diagram covers in the manual, but this way I'll physically show you some things that people do wrong, common mistakes, and how it should be done correctly. So this is the controller. These controllers are going to be a little different than a lot of them. This switch is going to be your power switch because you're on a transport, and if you're not going to use the system, just leave it off. If you're going to use it, it'll power up when you turn it on. So that's not normally the case. Normally the power comes on from the accessory power of the truck, but that's because normally we're watching an LCR2 or some other meter device. On a transport we're not. So I'm going to open the inside. We'll zoom in a little bit and look at the connection points. This is the insides of the unit. I'll go over a few things, hoping you can see. We've got all of the all the connection points down here are labeled in plain English label. DC ground, 12 volts. We've got DC ground, you may notice, in several places. And that's because it's kind of hard sometimes to stick a bunch of wires in the same hole, so we try to give you several places you can stick a wire, but all the DC grounds are the same. If they're labeled the same, we've just got them in multiple places. And then once you get all the wiring here, it's kind of hard to read those, so we replicate that label on the inside of the door here. I'm not sure if that's in the field of view there or not, but it is here. It matches that. We've got your serial number right here, which will ask you if you call for support. Your main board. This is the flash drive that records all of your transactions. You can remove it, take it to a computer, download them, or you don't have to. You'll store decades of records on there before it becomes full. We give you this extension cable so that you're not manhandling the actual circuit board when you remove that. You can see all of our stuff that you don't really need to mess with. All your connections are going to go down here. There are a lot of indicator lights that can be used for troubleshooting, but right now I'm just going to cover the wiring. A couple things here. This is a dual system. We've got a fuse that we provide basically for the pump modules. So right now they're on the pump outputs. If you want to rather put them on the 12 volts out and have all the 12 volts to the pump module fused, put them where you want them. Doesn't matter to us. We also, I will note, shipped you a screwdriver. That might seem an odd thing to ship, but to find a screwdriver that fits these so perfectly and yet has a nice big comfortable grip where you can get the connections really tight isn't something a lot of people normally have. If the tip of the screwdriver is this small, usually the screwdriver is super small too. So we just thought it'd be nice if we ship you the screwdriver so we know you're going to get all the connections tight. So this is in your box. Float switches at the pump modules. Sometimes people don't use them. I know in this case you're using them, but for us to test these on the bench, we bypass those so that there's a couple of loops here. You'll see a green loop and a yellow loop. Those are just in place of the float switches, so when we test this on the bench it thinks a float switch is hooked up. So when you hook up the float switch, you'll be removing and discarding these. Let's talk about the float switch. I sent you in your bag of stuff some sections of wire, shielded twisted pair. One's thin and one's a little thicker. The thinner wire is what we sent, intending you to use it for the float switch. Now it has this bare wire in it. You'll just cut that off. We're not going to use that at all on the float switch. So we've already shown how to hook that up in the pump module. It just hooks to the two wires from the float switch, and then here in the controller you'll just hook those in the same place these jumpers are. So it doesn't matter red and black or black and red, it's just a contact closure. So you'll have one float switch for one of the pump modules and another one for the other. Try not to mix them up. Then, let me talk real quick about how to get the wires in the box. We've sent you cord grips. We don't know if you want to bring the wires in from the side, in from the top, in from the bottom. Most people bring them in from the bottom, not everybody. So we've sent you cord grips. Just take a unibit or some drill bit, make the hole penetrations wherever you want. And then you can tighten up the cord grip and get a good seal on that. Now, the other shielded twisted pair wire we send you is for the additive pulser. And I told you in the pump module end you can just clip this shield. However, at the end where the controller is, this must be used. You're going to take, I don't care if it's the black, usually the black one. When you strip the black one back, go ahead and twist the bare wire and the black together. And then you'll hook the one with the bare wire on your, let's see, you've got, let's say diesel additive pulse is 5 and 6. 5 is the pulse, 6 is ground. So the pulse would be the one that doesn't have the bare wire with it, the other one is ground. So in this case, the red wire would go to 5 and the black wire would go to ground. And you could use the ground in 4 or the ground in 6. Again, they're all the same. But the thing is that you have to strip, get the bare wire and the black twisted together and put those in ground. So you'll have one of these for the diesel pump module and one for the gas pump module. So that's all your shielded twisted pair wire. Now the other wires you're going to land is you're going to have a DC ground from this point to chassis ground or straight to the battery. Chassis ground anywhere should be fine, but it should be a fairly good sized wire, like a 14 gauge or 12 gauge, because that's going to be our source for ground for all of the valves and the pump motors. Then we've got a 12 volt DC in, and that's going to be your main source of power. If you want to use a switched power, you can, but that's the main power coming in, and you can hook from your pump module the 12 volts to the pump module out of that as well. 5 volts DC, you're not going to use that. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got the pulsers, we've got the float switches. Okay, now you've got 13 is the diesel additive pump and 14 is the gas additive pump. Those are, your pump has a red and a black. The red we've already hooked up in the pump module to 12 volts. This is the black wire. So our controller is going to pull that black wire to ground, which makes your pump run. And if we pull it to ground rapidly, it's going to run fast. If we pull it to ground sparsely, it's going to run slowly. So that's what these are. You'll just take those out to the pump module with a 14 gauge, even a 16 gauge regular stranded wire, and that's going to run your pumps. The only remaining issue is your valves. The valves are operated the same way as the pumps. So we've already got the 12 volt positive to the valves wired up at the pump module. They are just lacking their black wire, the ground. These are going to provide the ground, so you'll have a small gauge, 14, 16, maybe even an 18 gauge single wire from here to each valve. So in the diesel pump module, the first valve will be hooked from diesel valve 1 to the first valve, the second valve, diesel valve 2, and so on. So once you've got those run, all of your wiring is done. You can then power up the system and start to go through some checks, make sure all the programming is correct, do a calibration. We'll go over the menuing and the operation in another video, but that is your wiring. Most common mistake we have is that people do not ground that bare wire on the additive pulser. If you do not ground that bare wire, things will not work correctly. And that the other common mistake is they don't give us a good DC ground. They give us a weak DC ground. But if you give us a good DC ground on the first pin there and ground your bare wire on the additive pulsers, you'll be in good shape. So that's it for this video. Thank you.